Hello, welcome back to the pre-show. It's been a little while since we've done one of these, but had a little break and we've had a little move abouts of things, and we're back now. We've got Full Gear coming up, we've got Survivor Series, we've got NXT War Games coming up. There's loads of different shows coming up, and hoping to cover them all. This show obviously would just be myself, but for Survivor Series and for NXT War Games, not Takeover. I'm trying to train myself out of not saying Takeover, and it's really difficult. But for those shows, I should have guests, so we should be back to the usual pre-show. But for now, I think we've got some cool stuff to try it with just me. How are we all doing? Is anybody in the chat? I do have some fancy stuff to show off. You'll notice I've got like graphics and stuff. The little space down here will be for the chat. We've got fancy here in the pre-show. How's everybody doing? In fact, I'll just show you. There's a sad, and if we click this, then hopefully, there you go. It shows and highlights the message. So whenever you guys have like a question to ask and I'm going to answer it, then I can pull it up and we can all see the answer. But yeah, Full Gear tomorrow night. Honestly, I think I'm more excited for this show than I was All Out. I mean, All Out had this sort of suspense of, oh, will Brian and will Adam Cole show up? Will Bray Wyatt show up? And all that sort of intrigue. Whereas this, I feel like I see Sad and Liam there. Just thanks for the support. But yeah, I feel like those shows had the intrigue of the debuts, whereas this show is actually the intrigue of the matches. I mean, we've got Hangman versus Omega. We've got Tay Conti versus Britt Baker. I mean, this card is honestly, I'm trying to think of the cards of like the last couple of pay-per-views of the last year. I think this might be the strongest pay-per-view card of this year. I don't know. I can't think of any others that are this strong. I mean, you've got Punk versus Kingston, which, I mean, a couple of weeks ago I would have went, but like the past 2 weeks of the build of that have been phenomenal. But we'll get into all the matches individually. But before we jump into all the matches and whatnot, you can obviously support the channel. There's various different ways to do that. Obviously, throughout the stream, I'll be answering all your questions and stuff. The title, that's fine. I can fix that just now. But yeah, there's various ways you can support the stream. You can subscribe, obviously, either $3.99 directly through Twitch, or if you've got Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime, you can use that and you get your subscription for free for each month. You can also donate, and if you donate or subscribe, I'll make sure to answer your question. But obviously, I've got the chat up, so if you've got any questions or whatever, or thoughts on any of the matches, post them in the chat and let me know. Title is updated. Thank you, Asad. Let's go into the buy-in match, and hopefully, if this works, there we go. Look, this took me an hour. I just want to appreciate putting in these graphics took a long time, so I was so worried that wouldn't work, but it has worked. Hallelujah. Buy-in match announced on Dynamite. Was it last night? Wednesday night. Yeah, Wednesday night. Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter versus Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida. Now, I do feel like this match, it's one of these buy-in matches that's kind of, it's there not really for a story or whatnot, but it's just there for the match. I feel like, I'll give my predictions throughout this. I think Rosa and Hikaru Shida will win, obviously, to give like a big babyface win to open the show. I think as well, because I think that gives Rosa the win over Jamie Hayter ahead of their TBS title tourney match, where I hope Jamie Hayter beats Thunder Rosa, because as much as I think people want Rosa to be in this big position and have the big title, I feel like you have Jamie beat Rosa, she goes on to the final, has another big singles match, which I feel like she's been needing. This is the problem. She's kind of just been Britt's lackey for so long, and I feel like she really needs a good singles match to kind of show off that she's more than that, whereas people already know that with Rosa. Jamie Hayter is a queen. Of course. But yeah, I feel like you give Rosa and Shida the win here, give Shida a nice win on pay-per-view, which she's not really had since before even Double or Nothing. When was the last time she defended? Revolution was the last time she won on pay-per-view, I think. I mean, it gives her that nice little win. Rosa obviously gives her that win, and people like that. And then Jamie can beat her at the TBS title tourney match, and hopefully then Rosa can go on to challenge a certain Miss Britt Baker. But we'll see. Let's go on to the next match, which was announced, I believe, also on Dynamite. Now this one's kind of interesting because there was a report. I want to say from, I believe, Wrestling Observer newsletter. It might have been a Observer radio. But originally this match was meant to be a fatal 4-way, which I think would have been, honestly, I would have enjoyed that so much more. I mean, can you imagine Pat, Cody, Malachi, and Andrade all tearing it up? And the thing is, they don't do that many, like, multi-man singles, not so much singles, but multi-man, like, crossover matches. You know what I mean? It's tired, it's late. But I feel like this match maybe would have been better as the 4-way. I think it's also partly because I'm not too sure about this pairing between Malachi and Andrade right now. It feels, I don't know, it feels like we don't have the proper reason behind it. Obviously we had MJF paid Andrade to use FTR, and that's how that partnership has happened. But it seems more randomly like these two just started appearing. Maybe I missed something, but I do watch Dynamite and Rampage. Maybe this is like a dark thing or a being the elite thing. But I feel like there needs to be a little bit more justification as to why these two are teaming. And hopefully maybe we'll get that in this match or Dynamite or Rampage beyond. But the match itself, I think, will be very good. I mean, it's Pat, Cody, Malachi, and Andrade. I would be surprised if it was bad, especially after Pac's match with Dax Harwood on Dynamite, because, can we just get more Dax Harwood singles matches? Because, my God, that was great. There was that match, and what was the one he had in January? Dax had a match with, I think it was Jungle Boy in January, that was also really, really good. But yeah, I feel like Malachi and Andrade should get the win here. I mean, I feel like, obviously, Cody beat Malachi in their last singles match after Malachi beat him twice. You could maybe argue that, he give Cody the win back, that makes them even. But I feel like if you're doing Malachi and Andrade as a team, even if it's long term, you give them that win. It strengthens their sort of partnership if you're going to make them a pseudo team from now on, versus Pac and Cody, which seems to just be a makeshift thing for now. Obviously the crowd love Malachi, so we got people will love Malachi winning, and obviously it's Cody is controversial right now, to say the least. So I feel like a Malachi win will probably be the safer option, and then if you're going from there to make, I don't know if this is the thing, I don't know if they're doing it as a team or not. I hope they're not doing it as a team, because I feel like both of those guys are better as single stars. I'm so upset that Thea isn't in AEW to join this team. I know she would be so good. I think if you're going to do a team and have those three with Thea as the manager, I think that'd be great. I feel like maybe that's the missing ingredient I think I would need to make this team more enjoyable. I mean, I feel like you have Malachi, who is kind of this stoic, kind of satanic evil guy. He's not really the kind of guy to cut a lot of promos. He has done in the past in AEW. And then Andrade, he can do promos, but again, he has his more. He's more just he's kind of in the same way as Malachi, in that he just doesn't need to cut promos per se. So having Thea there would have been great, but obviously circumstances and whatnot. otherwise. But yeah, I think Malachi and Andrade should get the win here. As I said, Malachi gets his win back over Cody. You're going to establish them as a team, then that'll strengthen them from there on. Otherwise, will be a great match. Darby Allen versus MJF. I'm going back and forth on this one. I don't know. I feel like Darby after the CM Punk match, you kind of he maybe needs a win back, but it is Darby Allen, who people will love regardless. But at the same time, as far as I'm aware, MJF has never been pinned one-on-one. The only times he's lost have been twice, and it's by submission. Moxley was the Bulldog choke at All Out last year, and Jericho, obviously, the Walls of Jericho All Out this year. So do you want to give Darby that win back, but in exchange for giving up MJF's, I guess, undefeated streak? You can maybe argue that. This is maybe just the statistics nerd and me freaking out, but is this a thing that people like know and care about, MJF being technically undefeated? Because he is very well protected in AEW, but I don't know if this is just a me thing or if this is just a general fan thing. Either way, I think MJF should win here. I think you can sacrifice Darby losing again and people will still love him. I don't think it matters too much if Darby loses here. But have MJF win, but have some sort of shenanigans or something with Wardlow. Because Wardlow obviously had that singles match on Dynamite where he squashed, who was it now? Wheeler Yuta. It was Wheeler Yuta. And it was a Wheeler Yuta squash match. Wardlow hasn't had a lot of singles like squash matches on TV recently. Maybe again, maybe he's been on Dark Elevation and Dark. I don't watch those. I don't have 4 hours extra a week to watch Dynamite and AEW. But there must be a reason behind them bringing Wardlow back to do single stuff. Darby pinning them would be great. Those two are going for feuds for years. That is true, actually, yeah, because the whole story behind that match is obviously the two of them being like the pinnacles of AEW, or the pillars of AEW, as they were going to call it. So I feel like, yeah, if you were going to have Darby be the one to beat MJF, it wouldn't be awful, but at the same time, I feel like there's a better story in that line, in that Wardlow maybe does something accidentally nearly cost MJF the match, or cost him the match if you want to go that far. Have them finally break up. MJF versus Wardlow. You can build it up over the next couple of months. Maybe do it at the Battle of the Bell special in January, or if you want to pull it all the way to Revolution in February, you could do. But you've got that. Have them feud. Wardlow beats MJF, and then you have Wardlow as an established singles guy. Especially even if MJF wins here, and then Wardlow's the first person to pin him. Now MJF needs to win so he can have the momentum to beat Paige. See, I don't know about that. The thing is, even if I do agree, I think MJF should be the person down the line to beat Paige. I agree with that, but I think that is a long, long while away. I think you can have this Wardlow feud, and then you can have Paige as a champion maybe for 8 months, maybe even a year. I mean, Omega's reign is approaching a year now. It's like 3 weeks away from being a year long. So, and it doesn't feel like it, if you know what I mean. So, you can have Hangman hold the belt for ages, have him feud with various different people, MJF, have him do the Wardlow feud, and then have him beat him way down the line. I do think MJF ultimately will be the person to dethrone. I hope so anyway. I mean, there's multiple options, but I feel like MJF's the one that everyone's kind of clamouring for, you know? Let me just take a drink. So MJF beats Wardlow, and then from there you can kind of do whatever with Darby. I mean, Darby's this kind of guy who's flexible. From here you can go on and really do whatever you want with him, whether you put him back in a TNT title picture, because I mean, how long's it been since he lost the belt? It was Miro that beat him, so I mean, that's 6 months. That's a decent amount of time. You could maybe insert him back into that picture, but there's loads to do. I think MJF should win here. You should go into the Wardlow feud. Doesn't hurt Darby. Ultimately helps MJF. This match, I'm very excited for. You told me 2 weeks ago that maybe your most anticipated match on this show would be CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. I'd have laughed. But I saw Kingston versus... There were two things that convinced me on this match. First one, was Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson, which was just the most Japan match you will ever see. Just the two of them chopping the shit out of each other. And obviously CM Punk's had various different feuds with various different people, Darby Allen, and then he's had this kind of run of mini feuds that's kind of divided people's opinions, whether it's, Punk needs to go into a more significant feud, or if these feuds are helping put these people over, whatever you think. This does feel like Punk's, I guess, first significant feud again since Darby. I think he's needed that for a little bit. And especially because, saying that, I say significant feud, the two of them have only really been doing this feud for like 2 weeks. This is the thing, they've only, they started it just after Kingston lost to Bryan. That was on Rampage, not last week, but the week before. And in 2 weeks of build, they've made it one of the most... The thing that made it, the other thing that made it was the Punk and Kingston stare down and promo battle on Rampage, which, I obviously, we all know Eddie Kingston is the best on the microphone. He's just great. But him and CM Punk mixed with that little, because apparently there is a history behind it. There was I remember seeing something where it was the promo was referencing an actual incident they had between the two of them back in 2002, 2003, where Punk got really heated at Eddie for something, if I remember right. But there's actual history behind it, and I think that mixed with sort of Eddie Kingston's ability to come across as just so real. I don't know how to describe it. He just feels so genuine, and it doesn't feel like one of these larger than life characters. I love larger than life characters more than the next person. I mean, there's some great weird and wacky characters in wrestling. I mean, I'm an acclaimed lover of the Fiend. That's a prime example. The Fiend versus Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is the exact opposite end of that scale. He just feels like a normal guy who's just coming in to fight. You'd find him in a Brooklyn bar or something like that. I'm going to be raging when Punk wins. This is the thing. As much as I love Eddie Kingston, and I think this match is going to be great, I feel like CM Punk still needs to win. Because CM Punk, I mean, he's undefeated in AEW, and I feel like they need to kind of capitalise on that a little bit more, making it clear that, this guy, I mean, so far he's beaten the likes of Matt Sydal and Darby and stuff like that, kind of people who are below, towards the mid-card and the upper mid-card. Eddie is someone who is challenged for the world title, I believe, at Full Gear last year, and he's been a pretty consistent, title picture guy over the last year. So beating Eddie should put Punk into the upper echelon of the card and should make him, ready for more, big matches and big title shots, which should hopefully, alleviate a lot of people's issues with the, with the minor feuds and whatnot. The thing is, Punk post Ring of Honor has not been great in ring talent, but instead using stories and deep belt feuds to improve it. This is neither, plus Eddie C and Kingston in ring. This is the thing, yeah. Punk is more of a story guy, which works with Eddie Kingston, because Eddie Kingston, whether you like his style or not, Liam, I know Eddie Kingston's style thing is not your thing, but I feel like their sort of blend of Punk being really good in promos and really good at telling stories, Kingston obviously just being a promo master. The two of their styles, I think, even in ring, will really clash. Well, not clash. What's the word? Clash. The opposite of clash. Meld with each other. There's a better word for it that begins with C. I just can't remember it right now. But yeah, I think Punk should win. Make it a big deal that, he's beaten this guy who's been a world title challenger. Make it a big deal that he's undefeated in singles. And then use that to go on to finally, when he finally does lose, that gives a rub on someone else. Whether that's, the champion at the time. I don't think it's going to be Kenny Omega. I mean, you have to do the Punk versus Kenny Omega match at some point. I mean, there's so many people in the upper level card that could be given that. Obviously Omega, obviously Hangman, Bryan. I mean, Bryan versus Punk. That's got to happen at some point. Complement each other. That's the word. Thank you, Sandra. But I mean, I feel like, yeah, use CM Punk's undefeated streak to build himself up to that card, get into more significant feuds. Hopefully that'll make people a little bit less decisive on him, and then we can get into better feuds, better stories. And then when he does lose, then it's a big deal. Falls Count Anywhere 6-man tag. The Young Bucks and Adam Cole. Falls Count Anywhere versus Lucha Bros. Nope, not Lucha Bros. Jurassic Express and Christian Cage. The feud that feels like it will never end. Look, I like the Super Click and I like Jurassic Express and I like Christian Cage. But is it just me or does this feel like it has gone on forever? I mean, I feel I like Adam Cole. I like the Young Bucks. Jack Ferry. He's not called Jungle Boy Jack Ferry. I refuse. He's Jungle Boy. This is no. But I feel like, yeah, this feud has gone on for. I feel like it has to end here. Whether it's a win for the Jurassic Express and Christian Cage or a win for the Young Bucks. I think. See, I don't know. I thought the Super Click originally, but maybe you could give it to Jungle Boy and Christian Cage because then you could maybe use that to get Jurassic Express into the tag title picture. But at the same time, this is Adam Cole's first big singles match. It's not Jungle Boy Jack Ferry. Look at the name. It's Jungle Boy. No, it's Jungle Boy. It's not Jack Ferry. But I feel like, yes, it's Adam Cole's first big singles match. Jungle Boy, obviously. Jungle Boy and Jurassic Express. Oh, Christian turns on Jungle Boy. That would be interesting. You could maybe do a Christian heel turn. I mean, that would give him some new fire. Because the thing is, Christian, since beating Omega, I mean, he beat Omega for the Impact title. And it feels like that probably should have been something that was bigger than it actually felt like. But, yeah, maybe, I wouldn't actually be against that. That's not a bad idea, actually. Let's just clarify. It's not Christian turns on Jurassic Express to join the Elite, right? Let's just, that I'm not on board with. Jungle Boy eliminated Christian in the Battle Royal. That's a very good point. I forgot about that. That's a very good point. You could do that. Ooh, I like that a lot. Christian doing something interesting would definitely be different. Yeah, I feel like, actually, yeah, you've convinced me on that now. Yeah, Super Click should win, but through Christian Cage turning on his team. That gives Adam Cole his first big win. Jungle Boy versus Christian Cage as a single feud could be so good. Yeah, you've convinced me on that now. Yeah, Super Click should win. Gives Young Bucks a nice win back into the tag division. Adam Cole obviously gets his big first win on pay-per-view. Christian Cage gives him something interesting to do with his character. And then Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus can put them into a feud with Christian. Oh, you've really turned me on that now. I'll be really sad if that doesn't happen now, because I really like that idea. Oh, man. Inner Circle versus the Men of the Year and American Top Team. This has been kind of to me. I like the Inner Circle, but I feel like it's kind of, I wouldn't say done. You don't need to break them up, but I feel like they had those couple of weeks where they all sort of split off and did their own thing, and I thought that was great. But now they're all back together again. It's just And and to be fair, I love Dan Lambert. I think the American Top Team and Dan Lambert's shtick is brilliant with just him running down AEW and independent wrestling and stuff like that. Sammy deserves better. Yeah, to be fair, he is the TNT champion. He really should have a more significant match on this show. That's a fair point. It just feels... It feels like a feud... It kind of feels like a feud like the last match, like Jurassic Express and Christian Cage versus Super Click, where it feels like it's gone on for long enough now. This should be the end, and it probably will be the end, but it's been fun, and I think this is probably the most obvious result on the card. The Inner Circle win, obviously beat up Dan Lambert, get the revenge for all of American Top Team's shenanigans over the last couple of months. I mean, it'll be a fun match and stuff, but I feel like this is probably the match that most people are just kind of on. I mean, and to be fair, a match with Chris Jericho, Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, Dan Lambert in it, if that's your match on a pay-per-view, then that's a good sign. But I mean, it's a street fight, so you'll get some interesting stipulations and stuff like that. You'll get some interesting weapons and stuff. But I do agree, yeah, Sammy should probably have a more significant match and feud, especially because Miro got to defend his title on all the pay-per-views that he was champion through, didn't he? Because he had Eddie at All Out. Before that, was he champion for Double or Nothing? No, I don't think he was. I think he was still Darby at Double or Nothing. Was it? Or did Miro dethrone Darby at Double or Nothing? Let's check. I have a computer in front of me for a reason. Let's check this. Double or Nothing 2021. Results. TNT title. No, Miro versus Lance Archer. I forgot about that. Yeah, Miro did defend against Lance Archer. Yeah, wow. So yeah, it is a bit of a shame that Sammy doesn't really have a significant feud on this show, because he is really, really good. I hope he gets a bigger spotlight. I think he will get a bigger spotlight at Battle for the Belts in January when they do that. If they're doing the kind of big title match feuds with that belt. I mean, you could maybe do something really interesting. If you want to do something really interesting, Battle for the Belts, they haven't exactly explained what that stipulation will be, but you could maybe do Sammy versus whoever the world champion is. It's kind of a Survivor Series type thing, but I feel like that would be quite an interesting dynamic. I mean, Sammy versus either Omega or Hangman would be really, really good, especially both of them as champions. So you can maybe do something like that. But yeah, I agree. Inner Circle, get the win. Sammy probably should have had a better match here, but they'll beat up American Top Team. Dan Lambert will have some fun promo. The usual American Top Team shtick. This match. Miro versus Bryan Danielson. Miro obviously replacing Jon Moxley in the World Title Eliminator Tournament. The final of that, the winner gets a title shot at the AEW World Championship in the near future. A lot of people, I think the general thoughts on this is obviously Bryan wins because it's Bryan. But honestly, I think Miro should beat Bryan. I think Miro has been on such a brilliant streak over the last couple of months, especially during his TNT title reign. I think the whole God's Greatest Champion thing and his whole like fall after losing the title and wanting to shouting at God and threatening God and all that, I think that stuff's absolutely superb. And I think what's more valuable as a world title challenger going forward? Bryan Danielson having beaten Miro, who already lost the TNT title not that long ago, or Miro, this monster, defeating Bryan Danielson, one of, if not the biggest name in AEW, going on to challenge either Omega or Hangman. I think Miro is the more valuable. I'd love Miro to win, but he's only there because Moxley is out, so I can't see it. This is true. That is very true. I do feel like, to me, this is all dependent on the main event result for me, which I suppose I can say. Hangman, I think, will probably win the main event. And I feel like Bryan Danielson is a weird first opponent for Hangman Page. You know? Whereas I feel like Miro, having beaten Bryan, he has that momentum, heel versus face. I think those two complement each other really well. Miro is this sort of monster, whereas Hangman's a little bit more agile. I feel like that will... I mean, obviously, Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page would be an excellent match, an excellent feud. But I feel like Miro is probably the more appropriate opponent. Lana screws Bryan, built to Lana versus Brie in the main event of All Out 2023. That's a good point, actually. Lana, I think there is a decent chance Lana's turning up, because Miro keeps mentioning her. Keeps mentioning his wife, and he keeps mentioning her. They wouldn't do it, and Chekhov's gun stuff and all that, you wouldn't mention it unless it was going to happen. I mean, there's a chance. Does Lana maybe turn up? I mean, there's a lot you could do here. Lana could maybe turn up. If Bryan beats Miro, she's filming, sadly. Well, I mean, there's always the future, but I mean, there's loads of stuff you can do with this match. We can only hope. I've been waiting for Lana to show up for ages. I think she'd be so good, especially with this monster Miro. And those two cutting promos together and those backstage vignettes would be so good. Which is why I really think Miro should beat Bryan. I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed if Bryan does win. I think either way, the result will be a really good thing. But I think Miro beating Bryan Danielson, becoming this absolute monster, especially beating this Bryan Danielson who is just kicking his opponents to shreds. I think that would be such a good feud. And the thing is, it doesn't hurt. This is different from the CM Punk thing, because obviously I mentioned earlier that Punk is undefeated in singles. So is Bryan, but I think the difference is Bryan has lost, whereas Punk hasn't. Bryan has lost in a tag match. I think it was his second or third match. He has lost. He's never been pinned or submitted. He wasn't the resultant loser of that team, but he has lost before. So I feel like it's different, and you can justify that. But I think there's more value in Miro beating Bryan, in my opinion. Miro going on to challenge Hangman Page, I think, would be a great little feud going all the way to maybe Battle of the Belts in January. But we'll see. AEW World Tag Team Championship match. The Lucha Bros challenge, or defend rather, against the AAA Tag Team Champions FTR. This has been another little weird one. So obviously, these two started feuding over the AAA titles. Andrade was feuding with the Lucha Bros. He paid MJF to have FTR come in as some weird tag name in like green suits. FTR ended up beating the Lucha Bros just out of nowhere, ending like a 2-year title reign. And now obviously FTR are going over to Mexico to do AAA shows, I believe, next month. But now we've also got the title again for the match again for the AEW tag titles. I don't know here. I mean, I feel either way, I feel like an FTR win would be good and a new title reign for them would be fun, but the Lucha Bros are still fairly early in their title reign, so I feel like the Lucha Bros kind of have to win so that you've still got a ton of matches and feuds you can do with them. I mean, there's Jurassic Express, you could do Young Bucks again, you could do... Why aren't the Gun Club number 1 contenders? I looked into this, right? I had a look into it. They're like 500-0. Technically they are. So I had a look into this because I was curious myself on this. So they're like undefeated in trios matches, not in tag. And in fact, I'll just double check this. So we go to the AEW roster page. Let's just double check this. So they're undefeated in trios, but not tag. So that doesn't count, which is a weird exception. But let me just find. So Colton Gunn, where is he? There he is. Oh no! 15-0 in tag, 10-0 in trios, 1-0 in singles. No, you're right. Why aren't they number 1 contenders? That's a very fair point. Maybe they should just do that on a Dynamite one day and just go, oh yeah, they're undefeated. Just throw them at the Lucha Bros and the Lucha Bros just beat them. I mean, that would be a fun little thing. I guess you could maybe argue that all of their wins came from people on Dark and Dark Elevation, but that's how Britt Baker got to become number 1 contender. So I don't know. I feel I do agree with that. That is a little. I'm not going to highlight that message, Craig, but yes, that is also a factor. It is a little strange that they are. I mean, Colton's 10-0, so they really should be up in the rankings, but. I mean, I'm not complaining about not getting to see Lucha Bros or FTR versus the Gun Club. But yeah, back to the match. I feel like Lucha Bros, you've got loads of matches and feuds you can still do with the Lucha Bros. FTR can go on and do stuff in Mexico with AAA and do a lot of fun stuff there. I feel like those guys, if they go back and rein it back a little bit to the whole no flips stuff, I feel like that would be great in AAA. And maybe bring it back to AEW and have them defend the belts. I know it's a little difficult because AAA have to approve any title matches they do there, which is why the Lucha Bros didn't really defend them much over the last 2 years. But Lucha Bros win. I think it's going to be a good match. I mean, it's a year on from FTR's great match with the Young Bucks. And I feel like FTR do kind of need that big match again. Because really since then, what have they had? They had the match with the Best Friends, but I think that was before the Young Bucks match. That was last year. They had the Young Bucks match, obviously, and then since then they've kind of done Pinnacle stuff, and they've kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit with the faction warfare with the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. But they're now the AAA tag team champions. They can go to AAA, do a lot of fun stuff there. Lucha Bros can go on and have feuds, hopefully with the likes of like Jungle Boy and stuff like that. Maybe we can do something with the Super Click. I mean, you could do Adam Cole and one of the Young Bucks, mix it up a little bit. There's loads you can do with Lucha Bros, but yeah, Lucha Bros retain, I think. AEW Women's World Championship. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, defends against Tay Conti. I'm really excited for this match. I think this is Tay Conti's first big... I think this is her first AEW Women's World title shot ever. Because she obviously had the NWA Women's World title shot against Serena Deeb, I think in January. And she obviously lost that. But this is her first big title feud. And I feel like, out of more than, maybe apart from Britt, Tay Conti might be the most like established woman in all of the division. I feel like she consistently gets that screen time. She consistently gets a great reaction. She consistently surprises people in the ring, and I feel like this match is gonna take her it has to take her to the next level. Even if she loses, I feel like having this match with Britt and having a star-making performance will help her get to the next level. As much as I do like Tay, however, I feel like Britt has to win, because you have the take on T's great, but I don't think she's the person to dethrone Britt Baker. I think everyone knows that. I think Thunder Rosa has to dethrone Britt in the rematch of their match last year at St. Patrick's Day Slam. I mean, it'll be a great match. I think take on T and Britt Baker can make something great on this card, but it feels another one like kind of the more obvious result. Britt has to win to go on to the Thunder Rosa match, especially if we're going to have Thunder Rosa, as I said earlier in the pre-show, beat Jamie and Nyla Rose, so Jamie can beat her, so that then Rose is clear for maybe another feud before the Britt one, or even the Britt one if you want to do it now. But Tay is no Utami. she's not. No, that would be kind of interesting. Tay going over to like Stardom or something like that. I mean, that's fantasy booking in my head. I mean, I wonder if you could maybe, is that something AEW's pursued, like a partnership with somewhere like Stardom or one of the Joshi promotions? I mean, I suppose they've got Chocopro with Emi Sakura and stuff, so I suppose they do have some of that, but it's not really a partnership per se. But yeah, I think this match will really help establish Tay Conti and bring her to that next level, but she's not the person to dethrone Britt Baker, I don't think. I think you have Tay lose here. Maybe she should go on to do the TBS challenge for the TBS title. I don't know how the rankings work where if you lose for the world title, what happens with your ranking for like the secondary singles title. I don't think you can go on to challenge for that straight away. So that can maybe be fun. Tay versus whoever wins the TBS title tourney. In fact, who's still remaining in the TBS title tourney? Let's have a look. Because I think Jamie should go to the final. Just trying to check who her opponent is. So it's either Nyla Rose, Hikaru Shida, Chris Statlander, or Ruby Soho. I would guess that's probably going to be... Oh no, but Jade Cargill is on Jamie Hayter's thing. Oh. Yeah, probably Jade Cargill versus, I guess, Ruby Soho. I mean, that could be... Jade Cargill you could maybe put it on. That's an interesting thought, actually. Who wins the TBS title tourney? Because I looking at that, I was going to go Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho final, but I forgot Jade Cargill's also in there. And Jade is undefeated. I feel like if you're going to have her lose, it needs to be in a final. It can't just be in a semi-final match, surely. And Ruby Soho would be a fun champion, so probably Ruby. That bitch, indeed. I mean, yeah, I feel like I don't get Jade, but props to her to Ruby. Yeah, I do get that. There is a general consensus. I think the problem with Jade has been she's been around for so long. I mean, I think there was a tweet earlier this week that a week, like some point, I think it was Wednesday or something like that, was a year since she debuted in AEW. And I mean, she's had the Shaq feud, and she's had the partnership with what's her manager's name? Mark Sterling, I think that's his name. But she's kind of just been lingering there. She's been beating people, but she's not had that big title match yet. So I feel like either she wins the TBS title and goes on to defend it for ages, or smart Mark Sterling, that's it. Or Ruby finally dethrones her in the final. That would be quite fun. And then Ruby versus Tay Conti, I think, would be a great little TBS title match for your tourney. Jade is a fantastic personality, but she's learning wrestling on the job. Yeah, this is the problem. I feel like a lot of people's are kind of down on Jade, but you kind of have to remember that she did start wrestling only a year ago, and I feel like for someone who's only started wrestling a year ago, she's really, really good. But the problem is she's exposed at such a high level straight away that it kind of doesn't make her look that good. Yeah, I do agree. I don't think she should be winning the title. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. Maybe it would give her some more interesting feuds and actually let her build up her own personality a little bit. But yeah, I feel like you have Ruby beat Jade, give her that big win, and then maybe you could do something like Ruby Soho versus Tay Conti, which would be great. I think that would be great. And then obviously Britt goes on to Thunder Rosa, where I feel like Thunder has to beat Britt. I feel like there's no one really else that's built up in that division to do that, unless you bring in someone new. But even then, I don't know. she's AEW's PC built star, so let's compare to WWE's version 1 year in. Bianca was like years ahead. This is true. Yeah, that's a fair point. But I feel like Bianca's an exceptional example. Bianca was exceptionally quick to pick up wrestling. This is the thing. Jade's not bad. I mean, she has picked up wrestling fairly quick for like 1 year in, but I feel like Bianca is a little bit of an exceptional circumstance. Because she started wrestling, 2016? Was it 2016 or 2015? Because I think the Mae Young Classic was her debut when she was in the first round of that. But yeah, I feel like you have Britt has to beat Tay. Tay can go on to some other title feud, TBS title feud. Britt can go on to Thunder Rosa, and yeah, there's not really much else to say. Main event time: Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, the long awaited match. I believe that the rematch actually from last year's Full Gear, because this was the match at last year's Full Gear, which was the world title eliminator final. Obviously we were expecting this at All Out, but then Page had to go away for, I believe, the birth of his child. I think that was what was said. I feel like Hangman, it's Hangman's time. I mean, there's been various people who have said maybe it isn't. I saw Bully Ray on Busted Open said that Hangman has to, you can still wait for Hangman, it isn't his time yet, but I feel like you have to pull the trigger now. You have to. Cowboy shit. Can I get a whole yeah? I don't know if I can get that for free, Ollie. If you maybe sling in a wee donation, then I think we could maybe get one, but not for free, nah. The match is fucked over for the benefit of new signings and covered by the BS excuse to do a pregnancy. You can think whatever you like. I mean, I don't think that excuse was fake. I think, but it was a weird time because it did free up Kenny during the weird period where we had Punk debut and Bryan debut. And I feel like if you'd done the Hangman feud then, it kind of would have been overshadowed. Whereas I feel like Dominic's sold out. Listen, I will do stupid shit on stream, but I'm getting paid for it. I'm making sure. So, Hangman, I feel like you have to have him beat Kenny. I feel like it is the time. You kind of had that delay before, which had got people going a bit on it. Whereas Kenny can maybe go on and do other stuff, but I do feel like it's kind of time. And you could do, I don't know, if you want to do Kenny versus Okada, you could do Kenny versus, if you want to bring over people from the New Japan, because they've been teasing Okada a lot lately, especially with the Chaos stuff lately. So if they want to be mental and do Okada versus Kenny again, then that frees them up for that. I do feel like it is time for Omega to drop the belt. I mean, we're a year in. I don't think there's going to be a better opponent to lose it to than Hangman, unless we wait like another year. But yeah, I just feel it's time for Hangman to win. It really is. There's a lot you can do with the Hangman Page title reign, and as I said, this links back into the world title eliminator. Miro as a first challenger to Hangman Page, that first feud sounds great. Miro versus Kenny Omega does sound good, but I don't think it's the same, and I don't know how well their styles would clash, because Miro is this big bruiser, but Kenny does the more athletic stuff. Like, I can't imagine Kenny doing a dragon suplex to Miro. Though saying that, he did it with Ishii, and Ishii is kind of the same build as Miro, so I don't know. I think, yeah, it is time for Hangman Page to get the win, get the belt. Kenny can go on to do the dream matchy stuff, whether it be Punk, whether it be Bryan, whether it be Okada. I do not want to have to discuss Omega versus Okada with Kenny McIntosh. What do you mean? Kenny would love that. Another 60-minute match. I'm sure he would adore that. I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you think the outcome of Bryan Miro reveals the main event result? Possibly. Quite possibly it does. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's a better way to set up Bryan versus Omega if they are going to do that again. I feel like they have to do that again after the draw the last time. But yeah, it could be an indicator. More so if it's Bryan. If it's Bryan, I think Omega... I don't know though. Surely Omega can't retain. I was going to say, I feel like if Bryan wins, then Omega retains. But that seems mad. they've been building up this Hangman story for so long, they can't put it off again. But it possibly does. I feel like Miro is it probably does, yeah. Miro, if Miro wins, it's Hangman. If Bryan wins, it's Omega. But either way, you could still build up the Bryan versus Omega, or Miro versus Hangman Page another way. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I just saw a little tip there from a certain person. I don't recognise. Ollie also. I don't know why the alert's not coming up. That's odd. Anyway, he tipped £3. Can I get a ho yeah? Is that how you say it? Ho yeah? Do you need to? Is it the high pitched one? Ho yeah? No. £3 well spent. Well done. You've got no notifications on. I do. I checked before the stream that the bits work. I don't know why the donation one's not working. Ah well. Was that £3 well spent? I give it a B plus. Good. Clipping something. Oh no, it's getting clipped. Of course. They don't have a Saudi show to build, so Hangman wins. This is true. You kind of have to keep in mind. AEW don't have that many pay-per-views. But at the same time, they do tend to generally focus more on their TV feuds and stuff like that. This is an issue I did mean to bring up earlier, but I couldn't think of a place to put it in. I think the main problem with it, the biggest offender of this is Punk versus Kingston, because it had like 2 weeks build. I feel like some AEW need to be a wee bit better about fleshing out their pay-per-view feuds a little bit more. This was a big problem, especially with the Double or Nothing main event, because if I remember right, that literally got established a week before the show, and it was just a triple threat match for kind of no reason. I mean, I say no reason. They were at the top of the rankings, but I feel like for a pay-per-view, it's Hangman and Omega is a good example of this. It's a long-term story. I'm not expecting every pay-per-view match to be a big long-term story, but it's a long-term story with a lot of history behind it. WWE generally has pay-per-view feuds that go a couple of weeks in advance and have a few weeks build. It feels like AEW sometimes just, oh, here's a pay-per-view match, and then that's it. Granted, it still works out, as we've seen by Punk versus Kingston, because my god, that's been one of the best builds of the show, and it's only been 2 weeks. But yeah, I feel that's the full card actually. 10 matches. I've got to say, I am thrilled about the prospect if I'm to stay up till 5 a.m. I mean, I feel even worse for Di and Liam because they're currently in Athens where it's a 2 a.m. start, so they're going to have to stay up till 6. So that sounds great. There's the clip. There we go. Of course. £3 well spent. You can only get that here on the pre-show. But that is the card for Full Gear. Let me switch this back. There we go. That was Full Gear. I need to let's pull this clip up. Is there any way I can put this on the screen? Oh, hang on, let me find this. What's the best way to do this? I feel like we have to see this back. Professionalism here on the pre-show. It's got, listen, it can't be a pre-show stream without something going a bit weird and being done at the last minute. Let's see, how do I add this? No, that's the wrong thing. No, it's this. There we go. Right, let's watch this. What is it? Oh no, I've casted it somehow. Let's not do that. Oh, you can't hear this. Shit, hang on. Professionalism. I'm good at streaming, I promise. Can I get a ho yeah? Is that how you say it? Ho yeah? Do you need to? Is it the high pitched one? Ho yeah. Oh, that was worse listening it back. I thought it was bad doing it in my head, but oh god. Oh, that was awful. Oh my god. I don't know where we go from here. How do you just sign off from that? That was the Full Gear pre-show. Thanks very much for watching. If you want to join these in the future, I mean, we've got the Survivor Series one coming up next Sunday, where I'll hopefully have a fun guest. I'll probably do one for the NXT War Games. It's really hard not to say Takeover. NXT 2.0 War Games. And then obviously we've got Day 1 coming up. So there'll be plenty of pre-shows coming up. I've got a couple of Twitch ideas that might be coming to fruition very soon, so keep an eye out for those. I know War Games. I am as unthrilled about it as anyone else, but it's. I mean, out of all the takeover things to bring back, War Games, really? I mean, I think it's gonna end up being a thing where it's like War Games and just in your house, and maybe just some other ones. But it's still a month away, so maybe they'll surprise us. But that was the Full Gear pre-show. Thanks very much for joining us, guys, and I'll catch you for the Survivor Series one on, what would the date be? The 20. When is Survivor Series? The 21st. So the 20th. Next Saturday will be the Survivor Series pre show. So until then,